Hello and welcome to one of the best sessions today. You may be a brilliant engineer, developer, technical manager, but if you cannot express yourself and speak with clarity, speak under pressure, it's difficult to get ahead. So this session is called Elevate Your Leadership Presence. And Lee Bonvissuto, who is a communication coach, will really teach you tools to speak under pressure, whether that would be a meeting or a presentation or a speech like this or a job interview. You will really walk away with great insights how to speak confidently. Lee and I met at an event like this, International Women's Day in 2018, and there were many parallel tracks just like this, and I was going to go to some tech one, and the organizer said, go to Lee's session. They teach Wall Street leaders, big tech leaders, Googlers how to speak, and it's usually very, very expensive. So today, you can do it for free. So after we met, we had personal, private sessions, and we worked on my brand, which is in Women Take Maker colors. It says, Own Your Expert. So I will now give the stage to Lee, and they will do all these exercises for you, and you will become a true leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. And thank you to all the organizers from today. And I'm very grateful to everyone who put so much work into making today so impactful. And today, I want to talk about you all being able to own your expertise. As Anna said, when we worked together in 2018, 2019, we came up with a framework for her to focus on when she was put on the spot. And today, I want you all to be able to own your expertise no matter what room you are in. Whether you're with your team or senior leaders, whether you're with a technical audience or a non-technical audience, whether you're on Google Meet or in person. In the age of responsible AI, I believe that the most important skill set for us all to strengthen is our ability to connect, communicate, and collaborate. Who here agrees with that? Yes. And so today I want you all to walk away with a practical framework of tools to put into practice so that you can speak with more ease under pressure. And a promise to you all, no one here will be put on the spot. There is no forced participation today. You can be interactive in whatever way makes you feel comfortable. And most importantly, because that is how we best learn. We do not learn and absorb new information when we feel uncomfortable. And so, thank you all for being here today. When I talk about elevating your leadership presence, I'm not talking about executive presence. This is a term that frankly means nothing. It has been weaponized and given through unclear feedback. When you tell someone they need more confidence or more executive presence, it only makes them less confident and less present. What I mean when I say elevating your leadership presence is that I actually want you to feel more present. I want you to have tools to be able to be more yourself in your most important moments. Because speaking up has never been more important. I believe that speaking up is how we elevate our authority. It's how we diversify leadership and hear from more types of voices. I care about this deeply as a trans person. I think we should all care about this as consumers, right? Because representation is how we build better things. Inclusion is how we build better teams. And I've spent the past 10 years working with thousands of technical people, product managers, UX leaders, software engineers, designers. And in this time, in coaching sessions And in team workshops at some of the world's top companies, I keep hearing the same things over and over again. People feel really confident with their teams, but they lose that confidence when they're in rooms with senior leaders. People are having recurring disruptive thoughts, things like, am I making sense? Do I sound clear? Where should I start? How much information should I give? And all of that disrupts your innate ability to communicate. So many of the technical people I've supported are receiving very unclear feedback that they need more confidence and more executive presence. But this leads to overworking, overthinking, over-preparing. And this is especially harmful for underrepresented people, but it's not serving any of us. This work comes from a deeply personal place for me. I always struggled speaking up. And I joke that it's because my mother was a mime. She really was a mime. But I actually just didn't feel comfortable being my full self in most spaces. And I've spent the past 10 years building tools, crowdsourcing tools from the thousands of people I've supported, and co-creating tools with them in our coaching sessions and workshops. And the tools come from my background as a theater director, thinking about presentation and production and storytelling, but also from my 13 years working as a neuropsychological assistant, thinking about attention, executive function, anxiety. And importantly in this work, I'm not the expert of your voice. You are. You each have your own lived experience, your own expertise. And so today I'm going to ask you to pick 1 or 2 tools that you want to move forward. We actually don't need 5 tools. And when we are focusing on that many tools, we lose our ability to focus in the moment with multitasking. And so that's my ask for you today, to choose 1 or 2 tools that make you feel present. Question, and show of hands, who here feels underheard at work? And being underheard can come from anxiety, it can come from sensations like distractions, it can come from being underrepresented, it can also come from workplaces where people are speaking over each other, or like you feel like you have to interrupt in order to get a word in. And so I'd love to hear from you all. Can everyone take out their phone? And I'm going to ask you to scan this QR. And the question is, what prevents you from being heard? And I'd love it if you would drop into that Slido a word or a phrase. And maybe it's anxiety. Maybe you have palpitations, a racing heartbeat. Maybe you have throat constriction, insecure leadership. Maybe people in your workplace are talking over each other and you have to interrupt in order to get a word in. Maybe you find that you're searching for the right words to sound professional, right? Maybe your distractions are more internal. Maybe you have racing thoughts, or maybe you find that you are thinking about how you're perceived instead of how you want to articulate what you want to say. Look at all of this. Imposter syndrome, retaliation, zero confidence. Anxiety is big at the center. Wow. Please keep these responses coming. Having your words here in this space is so important. The fear to be attacked on my opinion, talking over each other, stuttering, being remote. Wow. Throat constriction, thinking, what if I'm wrong? Look at all of this. Let's keep it coming. And here, I'm going to ask you to scan one more. Who here finds that they feel comfortable with their teams, but they get nervous around senior leadership? This is incredibly common, and I want to know, does this happen often, sometimes, or never? Yep, we're seeing these responses coming in. Certainly a lot of sometimes, a lot of people feeling like this is a part of their daily, weekly experience. Fascinating. Only 11% of this room says never. Wow. And this really aligns with my data. I've been collecting data over the past 10 years, and it's not just from my coaching clients, it's from the thousands of leaders I've supported at some of the world's top companies. These are mostly from manager level and above. And in this data, 87 to 88% of people report that they struggle speaking when they're put on the spot. My clients are in every industry. I work with people at all levels of seniority, and particularly at people at the senior manager level and above. This is so much more common than you think. No one is talking about it. No one is acknowledging it. And here we have close to 87% of people who report that this is a challenge sometimes or often. So this is happening in every room that you're in, whether you're aware of it or not. The next question I have, do you overthink or go blank under pressure? Let us know if this happens often, sometimes, or never. Wow. Incredible. Most people in this room experience this sometimes because most people experience this sometimes. And the variability of I can feel very comfortable sometimes and less comfortable other times, even that unpredictability can be enough to spike our anxiety. And this is why it is so important for us to have tools, to be more ourselves under pressure. And in my work, I believe that we communicate with confidence when we're comfortable. Who here agrees with that you feel confident when you're comfortable? Show of hands. Yeah. And that it's these less comfortable moments. And so we really need tools to actually access the innate confidence you already have in your most comfortable moments. We need to bring that confidence into our more challenging moments, right? And the way that my tools work are all the same. First of all, they're not habitual. Habitual tools just lead right to habitual behavior into habitual anxiety. We want the tools to not be habitual. We want the tools to require presence, to bring you to the present moment. We want the tools to take the part of your brain that wants to race and run ahead, that wants to overthink. We want to give that part of your brain a job. They all work in the exact same way, and they're very simple. And I have millions of tools, again, that have been crowdsourced and tested with thousands of technical leaders over the past 10 years. The tools can be tools of content, frameworks and formulas, thinking about how do you organize ideas from a high level so you can be concise. But also I have tools of presence and delivery that will help you regulate your nervous system so that you can access that calm confidence no matter what room that you are in. And I have one rule in this work, and one rule only. I keep it super simple on purpose. You can do anything you want, anything at all, as long as you do it consciously, as long as you're making a choice. Some people who do this work will vilify behaviors like saying, we all do these things. It is deeply societal and contagious in certain spaces. And so you can do anything as long as you're doing it consciously. All of our habits have incredibly impactful uses when we are doing them on purpose. And all of this is to align our brain with our body so that we can be more fully present, so that we can be more ourselves under pressure. I want to share one of my favorite tools, one of my simplest tools, and I'm sharing this so that you can all get a sense for what it means to get out of your head and into your body, out of your head and into the present moment. And in this work, I say that being present is focusing on any sense outside of thinking. Thinking can lead to overthinking, and it can make us lose our focus. And so all of these tools that we're going to try in the beginning are designed to get us out of our head and into the present moment. So who here has noticed that they lean in on video calls unconsciously? Anyone? You find that you're leaning in just a little bit on video calls? And could everyone just lean in a little bit? Just a few inches off of the back of your chair. Ooh, everything just got really intense. Wow. Good, so just pay attention while I'm speaking. Pay attention to how this impacts your ability to listen, to feel relaxed, to process information. Leaning in is not inherently problematic, but it is habitual. And so the habit can then feed habitual patterns of thinking, habitual anxiety. It also constricts our ability to breathe. If you have a tendency to speak fast, leaning in is going to feed that tendency. And now can everyone lean back? and actually relax your back into the chair. Let the chair hold you. And see how that changes your ability to process information. Like I said, leaning in is not inherently problematic, but when we lean back, it's not natural for most of us. It's not habitual. And so most of us are going to feel more ease in our ability to process information and think on our feet. Leaning back creates more ability to breathe, and that is going to oxygenate the system more. I used to joke that, leaning in was not just new to the pandemic. I would walk through office buildings in 2015, 2016, and around a conference room table, everyone was leaning in except for the person at the head of the table who was leaning back comfortably. When we lean back, first of all, it's not habitual. We bring ourselves to the present moment. Second of all, we activate our vagus nerve. Who here knows what the vagus nerve is? I just learned about this a few years ago, and I wish I had learned about it decades earlier, because this is how we decrease anxiety. The vagus nerve is the largest nerve in our body. It connects the brain through the heart down to the gut. It connects our gut with our brain. And it is responsible for really important functions like circulation, breathing, digestion, relaxation, cognition, thinking on your feet. It's incredibly important. And when the vagus nerve shuts down, we go into fight or flight, and that is our heightened state of anxiety. And so we're always looking to activate the vagus nerve. And when we do activate the vagus nerve, all of those important functions are optimized. And when we are activating the vagus nerve, we are also increasing access to our gut brain. Our brain communicates with our gut brain, and very recent science has shown that we're actually thinking in concert with this system, which is traveling along the vagus nerve. And so our gut brain increases access to feel-good hormones, hormones like serotonin, which increases trust and connection, testosterone, which increases confidence and authority, dopamine, which increases productivity. 50% of our dopamine lives in our gut. 95% of our serotonin lives in our gut. So when we're in fight or flight, we are losing access to these incredibly important functions that feed our ability to think on our feet. And just by leaning back, can everyone lean back again? We activate the vagus nerve, we remind our bodies that we're safe and that we can be comfortable, and we can counter that tendency towards anxiety. And who here has noticed any changes in your ability to think or process information on your feet? I wonder, do we have any mic? We have these great Google boxes that we can throw in the audience. Are those around, our Google boxes? There we go. Anyone want to share how leaning back has just impacted your ability to be present? We have someone back here. Let's throw that box.
Does this? Oh, shit.
Hello.
I swear. This actually works. My breath.
Your breath.
I was leaning forward. I was breathing a little higher, leaned back, and it went a little into my diaphragm a little more.
Absolutely.
Just like slowed down the breath.
Yep.
Whether I was present enough to make that happen, but yeah.
Incredible. And importantly with this work, we're always going to go back to the habits. And so you bringing yourself back to that tool keeps you present. It literally moves your attention from your brain into your body. And just by bringing that attention lower, we increase focus and confidence. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share any observations about leaning back? Anyone else? Yep, we have someone here in this third row.
Hello, my name is Ibrahim Hudson. One thing I realized is that I felt almost sleepy, like I just felt a little bit more calm and just able to process things a little bit smoother.
Yeah, you felt a little sleepy and calm, absolutely. And so that's our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. Have you ever heard about that? And so being able to counter to that and focus on that when you're anxious, first of all, it just becomes a new focus. And second of all, it actually improves your hormonal confidence. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And I want to speak about how to adapt leaning back for speaking on a stage. And so most of the time when I'm doing workshops, I'm with a team or a small organization. I'm with 20 to 50 people at most, and this is such a rare event to be on this stage. One of my focuses for today is actually leaning back into my back foot. And so even doing that is anchoring my attention further down in my body. I'm focusing on getting breath into my belly instead of my brain. And for anyone here who has palpitations, that's usually the system being flooded by too much air up in our head. We want to get that air into our bodies. Any other observations about leaning back? Yeah, we have someone over here. Let's get that Google box. You can throw it too. These things are designed to be thrown, I'm told. Yeah, woohoo! Well done.
Is it working?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, well, it's not here, but actually when I'm at home, well, I'm basically a software engineer, so when I'm coding, I usually code on my bed, not on my desk. So it increases productivity. It makes me feel like I'm comfortable. I can code for long hours.
Absolutely.
I don't have to sit on a ridiculous chair all the day, and I can just be comfortable in my bed, lean back, and just be productive. It actually helps, stay focused. I know it sounds absurd, like opposite. Like, how can you be so productive while you're just your like body language matters when you're doing something professional? But I feel like it's wrong. The more comfortable your body is, the better you be productive in things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I completely agree. And being able to move that relaxation into your meetings is everything. And so when you're behind a screen, when you're meeting on video conference calls, I want you to think about leaning back into your chair. And you can pull your laptop screen down so that you're physically taking up space on the screen. But how can you actually lean back? This is going to allow more access to breath. It's going to slow you down. And again, it's just not habitual. And even right now, as I'm speaking, if you can move your awareness to the tactile sensation of your back on the chair, it creates more awareness and attention in your body. And so when you're speaking, how can you keep that awareness in your body? It is so important. And along those lines, I want to share one of my other favorite tools, which is a tool of focal focus. Now, who here finds that when they're put on the spot, they look up and their eyes start wandering? Anyone? This is the most human habit. Every single human being does this. And it's deeply physiological. Who here notices that they lose their train of thought or go blank under pressure? It was a lot of people in that Slido. Yeah, so this is related. These two things are happening because of each other. So this is a tool of focal focus, being conscious about where you are looking. It has nothing to do with eye contact. Eye contact is irrelevant on video calls. It's also highly complicated for people who are neurodiverse. It's complicated from a cultural perspective. It's actually not about eye contact. It's about focal focus. So again, most of us look up and our eyes wander rapidly when we're put on the spot. We find that we start thinking and speaking at the same time. And I'm just going to do it right now. And it might even make it harder for you to even pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm already losing my train of thought. And again, this is not inherently problematic. We all do this. But when we look up habitually, looking up with rapid eye movement shoots us into deep thought, deep processing, right? Can you feel that? And when you're put on the spot in a meeting, I do not want you to go into deep thought. I want you to be accessing ideas you already know. And also, looking up, almost always we hold our breath. Looking up also signals to ourselves that we don't know what we want to say. And it can signal that to our audience as well. And so what I recommend is just being aware of focal focus. Know where you're looking. This also means that you need to take micro pauses in order to decide what's next. Can you hear these micro pauses I'm doing between each thought? They are so small, it's barely a hair of a thought. But it is giving me a moment's pause to decide where I'm going next. It also gives you all, as the audience, an opportunity to catch up with me. A lot of us don't feel like we can pause in meetings, and especially fast-paced meetings. But you can take a pause anywhere, at the end of a thought, in the middle of a thought, and when it's that small and micro, it's very clear that you're thinking. It's very clear that you're coming back to it. And this focal focus can help center your attention in your body. And it's incredibly important because with well-timed pauses, the audience's ability to understand and remember what you said increases 30 to 40%. And yet most of the people that I support are not taking pauses. They keep speaking and talking and thinking at the same time, and all of this can deoxygenate the body because suddenly I'm not breathing, I'm not filling myself up, and then it's also unclear for the audience about where I might be ending, right? And so a lot of us are speaking in this way. It's deeply contagious, and so we can't be hard on ourselves for it. And can you hear the difference in how I've been speaking, right? It's a bit overwhelming, it's a bit hard to catch up with. And so especially if you have a tendency to speak fast under pressure, working in these micro pauses, being able to be more conscious with your focal focus can help. It also creates more room for breath. A lot of my clients will think of a bubble, like there's a bubble, and I'm going to keep my attention in that bubble, meaning I'm going to look down when I need to think. When I'm working from home and I'm on a video call, I have a few spaces in my room that I will look at to think, and I have to make sure that I'm pausing to do so. So I look at my keyboard, I have a picture of my kid on my desk that I'll look at, and I might even choose something on a far wall. And even that of changing your focal focus in a conscious way has been shown to regulate your nervous system. And so again, this tool is not about eye contact. It's about knowing where you're looking. And I want us to practice this now. And we're going to practice in pairs, and it's going to be an opportunity to practice this tool of being aware of your focal focus, being aware of where you're looking. I'm going to repeat that you have to pause. We have to have space to think on our feet. It is important. And so if you want to participate, I'm going to ask you to pair up with someone very close by to you. You can also do threes, that's totally fine. And we're going to talk about this question, which is, what made you get into the work you do? And as you're practicing, I want you to be aware of your focal focus. Just being aware of where you're looking. And not everyone has to participate. I'll give instruction for that. And yes, there's a question here. Can we have that box so that we can make sure we hear from you? If you give me the question, I can repeat it too. How long is a pause? Really, did you hear what I just did? That was maybe half of a second, right? It's enough for a breath. Here's the thing. I want you all to practice pausing until you know what you want to say, right? Most of the time, we feel like we can't pause at all, and that is just not true. So if you have a tendency to speak fast, pausing is the answer, micro-pausing. But when we're under pressure, a pause can feel like 5 or 10 seconds when it's really half a second. And there was a question over here. You want to catch? Yeah, good catch.
So micro pauses, right? So won't that create a little bit of awkwardness in the conversation sometimes, like you're stopping for a while and then the other person saying, oh, what is he thinking?
So usually pausing on purpose, micro pauses, only makes you seem more thoughtful and confident. The best leaders do this. The best leaders take time to think. But it has to be a micro pause, and the more comfortable you get with micro pausing, the shorter the pauses become.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that, how do you keep track with these micro pauses? Like when you're speaking in a conversation, you just get in a flow and you don't realize the track of time. They're just speaking, and the other person might not catch up. So how do you track these micro pauses?
Yeah, so for most of my clients, I'm recommending that you pause at the end of each thought, just for a tiny pause. Did you see what I just did? And I did that in the middle of a thought. So and if you're in a very fast-paced meeting, you can use filler consciously. So I can, and then I don't even have to continue the thought that I just was saying. Did you see that pause that I did? I'm grounding for a pause. It's barely a second, but that's enough time for me to know what I want to say next. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and did you have a question here or anything to share?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
You had a question.
I had a question. I was wondering, like, because just to make it personal, I
Yeah.
tend to pause too long.
Sure.
You know, and I take a little too long to get my thoughts together. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a question.
I got you. So what I will say to you is, what is occupying your focus during that pause? Is it that you're fully focused on what you want to say, or are you focused on, oh no, I'm pausing too long?
I think it's more like what I'm going to say next.
What you're going to say next. And so this advice of pausing more is for people who tend to speak very fast and not pause at all. And so I have very different tools based on where you fall on that spectrum. And the idea is that you want to kind of be shooting for the North Star at the opposite end of the spectrum.
You tell I pause a lot.
No, and I would challenge you and really ask you, are you sure that you paused too long? Because when we're put on the spot, our interpretation of the pacing is usually completely inaccurate.
I've been known to like almost pause too long.
Yeah.
To the person that I'm talking to, they'll start talking because they think
Right. And so there you might want to be using conscious filler. And conscious filler can be anything, including But how can you signal to your audience that you are still in thought? And so you can take the conversation with any sort of conscious filler. I just used "and so." Did you hear that? But how can you really signal to your audience that you're still in process and to create that space for yourself to think? Because I don't want you to rush through that thinking either, right? But this is such a good question because I have so many tools designed to help you feel prepared to be put on the spot. And so how can you have a framework or a tool in these moments? Okay? But we're going to practice this in pairs. And I wonder, can I have a volunteer who will demo this with me, just so everyone has clarity about what we're about to practice? Great. Let's hear from you with the flowers sweater. Do we have a box? Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. And what's your name?
Sevgi.
Hi, Sefti. Nice to meet you. I'm Lee.
Nice to meet you too.
And we're going to practice exactly what we're going to do in the audience in a moment. And so once we begin the practice, you and I are going to have a conversation about what got us into the work that we do. And we're going to be aware of our focal focus. We're going to be aware of where we're looking. That's the only instruction, okay? And so Sefti and I will practice this. Let's do it.
Just one question before we begin.
Yeah.
My focal point, do I always have to make eye contact with you, or can my focal point be, can I have?
Your focal point, such a good question, Sefti. Your focal point can be any place that you're choosing to consciously look.
Okay.
So for me, that can be eye contact. But when I'm presenting on Zoom, I'm usually focused on my scaffolding, my notes, which I keep at a very high level. But you can focus on anything as long as you're focusing your eyes, including looking at the floor.
Okay.
All right. So Sefti, what got you into the work that you do?
I think I've always loved working with children, and I'm an educator, and I develop curriculum. And so I've been really inspired, and I love what I do.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Well, what did you experience in that practice, though?
I think I was nervous.
You were nervous?
Yes.
Were you aware of your focal focus?
I had to come back to the awareness. So that was hard at the beginning.
That's
so I think
the tool.
Yes.
That we will always go back to the habits, and even the impulse to look up can make us more present and can keep us more embodied in the present moment. And that's exactly it, right? You can feel that impulse to look up.
Yes.
And did using focal focus help make your attention feel more centered at all?
Yes, it did. Because I think I was nervous in the beginning, but then I remembered my focal point, so I kept coming back.
Yep. If you lose your train of thought, it is happening up there. One of my clients once said it's like the difference between searching and seeking and knowing. And I want you to be accessing ideas you already know. Thank you, Sefti, for practicing with me. Does anyone have any questions before we practice this as a group? So I'm going to ask you, yes, question, please. Let's get that box.
So you're saying that you have focal point can be anywhere.
Anywhere.
But when we're talking one-to-one, I feel like it's mandatory to look into the eyes, or at least at the person, so that he doesn't feel neglected, like you're not looking at him, you're just having your own thoughts.
Yep.
And you're not giving attention to the person you're talking to. Then it doesn't create a good vibe with that person. He's just like, avoiding me.
So eye contact can be a point of focal focus, but it doesn't have to be the only one. And so what I'm doing on this stage is I am using focal focus. I'm going to be with someone for a bit, and then I'm going to ping pong to someone else. But I'm also ping-ponging to my notes on the screen, right? And so for me, as a speaker, whenever I'm focusing my attention, it helps me think with more clarity. But you're right, of course, eye contact can enhance connection. It's also very challenging for cognition. And so we need to create those micro pauses so that we have space to think. Because it's very challenging to think deeply when you're locked into eye contact with someone. Have you noticed that? Yeah. And so I return to eye contact, but I'm taking those micro pauses away. Can you feel that? Any other questions before we practice?
Here.
Yeah,
Does it have to be specifically about focus?
Or any questions, really.
So it kind of piggybacks on what the gentleman here was saying about pausing and someone assuming that you might be done. But my concern is in spaces that may be specifically contentious, right?
Yep.
Or where the person is looking for the opportunity to steal that floor from you. What are your suggestions for that?
Absolutely. So first of all, you want to maybe even have something in your back pocket for when you do get talked over or interrupted. And I have a million frameworks to really pull the focus back. But really, it's about you being able to stay centered and grounded. Because the problem is when everyone's trying to one-up each other and talking over each other, it becomes very, very contagious, right? And so you being able to stay grounded and almost think about magnetizing the audience to you. And then there are some times where you have to get in there and take the conversation. I still want you then to ground. And so I just had some conscious filler, and then I regrounded. I looked down and took a breath. Could you feel that? Mm-hmm. And so being able to stay aligned for yourself internally, I believe, is the most important thing. And some of our rooms are just going to be more challenging, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. What else? Any other questions or thoughts before we practice? And this, yeah, we have a question over here. Can we throw a box or gently toss? These Google boxes are fun.
Hands up.
Oh. Woo! Woo!
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my God, I'm scared now. Okay, my question is about speaking very fast.
Yeah.
So I have noticed how you are taking micro pauses and then how you are framing a sentence like in such a calm way. I'm not this kind of a person. Like, I'm totally opposite. I speak fast. I mean, very fast. Even when I'm relaxed, even when I'm tensed. So how do I I know that greater minds, they speak slowly, they speak very less. But then I have this feeling like I have so much to say in maybe 5 minutes. How do I cover it?
Yeah. So I speak very fast too, naturally. I'm using my tools right now. And it's really about prioritizing breath. I want to speak fast, and I'm speaking fast to keep up with racing thoughts, and we are all doing that, and it's causing us to be less present, and then we also end up giving too much information, saying too much. And what we're going to talk about after this practice is organizing content in a concise way, being concise and clear. And so for all of you, as you elevate your leadership, you need to be speaking in bigger ideas, to be saying more with less, right? Everyone in this room has such deep technical knowledge, you might have so much to bring to a response. But your stakeholders do not share your level of expertise. I will say that, right? And so being able to consciously pause, first of all, is how you magnetize people to you. It's what enhances your leadership presence. I actually believe that pausing is the key to unlocking executive presence, this very, very vague term. But it's also how you organize ideas from a higher level so that you can be more intentional when speaking. So I promise you, I speak so fast when I'm unconscious. I'm right now forcing these pauses so that I can slow myself down. Who here has gotten feedback that you speak too quickly? Yeah, a lot of us are getting this feedback. When we think about slowing down, it becomes a distraction. Okay, the same thing happens when we think about our tone of voice or we think about our facial expressions. It's a distraction. The tools that I happen to recommend help you hook into the present moment, improve your access to hormonal confidence, and are not habitual. So this isn't habitual for me either, okay? I promise. This is a practice. It all is a practice. Thank you for sharing that. Any other questions before we practice? Right next, yeah?
Hi, my name is Rishika. So I just wanted to know, like we apply for interviews and we have so much, we are talking one-on-one, we are under so much pressure. So if we trail off from our train of thoughts, like we are blank at times, so what's the best way to get back on it?
Yeah, Rishika, thank you. And so being in an interview setting, as you all know, they might be looking for technical expertise in some moments, but they're really looking for communication and confidence, right? And so you being able to prepare in a way that helps you be put on the spot. So when I'm helping my clients prepare for interviews, we're really developing a bank of stories, of golden nuggets, as I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, so that you can access your big ideas. But if you feel like you go on a tangent, you feel like you lose your train of thought, I want you to pause, take a breath, and then start wherever you want. Being able to do that with deliberate intention, it shows confidence, it shows clarity. You don't have to continue the thought that you felt like you might have been rambling on. You can, and you do not even have to continue what you were just saying. Does that make sense, Rishika?
Yes.
Okay. So let's practice this. You can pair, I want also to see, in a moment I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if you want to participate, and when you do, find someone with a raised hand in a pair or a trio, and you're going to talk about, have a conversation about how did you get into the work that you do, and be aware of focal focus. Practice this idea of the bubble, of being aware of where you're looking, of pausing on purpose. All right, let's do it. Who wants to participate? Let's look around, find someone with a raised hand. If you don't want to participate, that is absolutely fine, and take it away. Let's have some conversation. My hand is raised. I might be mic'd, so. And all right. So where do we have those boxes? I'm bringing you all back. What did you observe? Did anyone have any observations from practicing focal focus? Does anyone want to share any observations? I know for myself, I got to practice with 2 people in the front row, and it was a good practice for me. Yes, let's get one of these boxes. I want to hear from Janelle. Let's get a box for you. There, it's coming. Can we get one of these boxes? Hi, how are you? Right here for Janelle in the front. Thank you.
Hello. As you
Hello.
said, my name is Janelle. One observation I made is that I'm very comfortable with eye contact.
Yeah.
It actually is more comforting. I know that a lot of people have a problem with it, but I found it very comforting
Good.
to know that the person that I was talking to, Eric right here, was actually listening to me and absorbing exactly what I was saying. And same for him, I feel like.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable with eye contact, and some of us feel really nourished by eye contact. So that's really, really important. Does anyone else have any observations? Yeah, right here in our second row. Perfect. What did you observe?
One thing I observed is that when I speak, I try not to think of a script. I think of the way that I'm speaking and kind of just let it flow naturally. So one thing I realized with me and Lionel, great guy, but when I spoke to someone, I like eye contact, but I would build in my micro pauses with my glances towards a different focal point and come back to that. And I noticed with him, he would look similarly in the same direction. So I don't know if that's a commonality to look down to the right, but it was just one thing I realized.
And it makes you more present, right? It makes you more purposeful. Yeah, here for
100%.
Kadeem.
One thing that I observed was I think I'm more so someone who tries to dictate the source of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I noticed it when I had a conversation with you. I was trying to make eye contact throughout the conversation. However, when I caught myself stuck in a fog of thought, I remember you said something, it's harder to focus when you're looking at somebody in the eyes.
Yeah.
And I immediately shifted my focal point over here, and the thoughts sped up a little bit better. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kadeem. Oh, that was, and I had no awareness that was even under the surface, right? Amazing. Derek, anything to share?
I have a question, actually.
Yeah.
In terms of how do you navigate talking to somebody and incorporating your pauses when you're speaking to somebody who's not very patient and tends to cut you off a lot?
Yeah, so most people who are speaking fast and who appear impatient are secretly distracted and often feeling insecure themselves. Most people. It's wild how many people are secretly feeling that way and not talking about it. And so I see it as an opportunity to actually pull the pace of the entire interaction back. I see it as a gift, and I'm not talking about speaking slow, I'm not talking about taking up a lot of time, but even just bringing it back, becoming a place for them to feel more calm, can be a real powerful move, right?
How would you pull it back, the conversation?
Pausing.
Okay.
Pausing on purpose, and I'm not talking about pausing for long. But now I want to get into, what do we have over here?
For example, if we are talking, both of us we are talking, and you are ignoring my, means like I'm talking to you confidently and wanted to express myself, but however you are ignoring me, you are seeing somewhere here, there. So how we can be confidently speak in this?
Yeah, so usually when someone is acting distracted, we then try harder in order to engage them, and that can make me kind of go off my center. I lean in, I start speaking faster, right? And so I really want to think about leaning back and magnetizing you to me and pulling you into my energy instead of being absorbed into your energy. And that in itself builds confidence and presence. But it can feel very counterintuitive. But I want to get into some of our frameworks because we've been focused on tools of presence and physical delivery. But it's also really important to think about content and organization of ideas. And so as someone with anxiety, I need structure. I can't just wing it. I can't just show up with no preparation. It doesn't work. But I also don't want to over-prepare. And so this is where systems thinking can create structure in spontaneous moments. And I have a million frameworks and formulas, almost like a fill in the blank for you to use that you can use to prepare in advance, but you can also put into practice in the moment. And so who here finds that they give too much information when they're put on the spot? They lead with all the details. This doesn't surprise me because everyone in this room has so much technical wisdom and expertise. You all know all of the depth of detail that go into all of your work, right? And so it can be confusing. Where do I start? How much information should I give? And I want to share one of my favorite frameworks. I call it the golden nugget. So when I'm put on the spot, my natural inclination is to have 5 ideas and then I go blank, okay? And this is designed specifically for your leadership moments, for communicating with concise clarity. And so I will take a pause when I'm put on the spot, and I will find my golden nugget. It is a word or a phrase that is the biggest idea I have. It is, if I have 3 ideas, it's the connective tissue or the umbrella over it. And this creates clarity and focus in my response. And from there, I can go into more details. And this is the same idea as Barbara Minto's the pyramid principle, or at McKinsey, they have an idea called answer first. And so if you tend to start in the details and work your way to the response, I want you to think about taking a conscious pause and beginning with your golden nugget. And so I want to ask you all a question, and I want you to silently, in your mind, find your golden nugget, okay? And so there's no pressure to respond, just a silent, in your mind, what would be the word or the phrase that is almost the headline of your response, the most important thing you want to share. It's also almost always the first thing that comes to your mind. And so my question for you to practice silently is, what purpose does your work serve? Mine just came to me, and it was inclusion. Did everyone find a golden nugget silently in your mind? This is a practice. This does not come naturally to me or to most of the people I support. But just like our physical tools, being able to put one of these internal tools of focus into practice will help you focus and feel more confident in the moment. And so practice this when you feel comfortable as well. I now want to give you a framework for perhaps the most common question that we're all asked all the time, which is a framework for introducing yourself. Now, I am all for feeling prepared to be put on the spot, but this is an opportunity that we don't have to be unprepared for. All of you are asked this question constantly, and even if you're not asked to introduce yourself, internally at your organizations, you have constant opportunities to remind people of the purpose of your work. And so this is a framework, and just like all of my frameworks, it is designed to be adapted for your own use. And so this is 3 parts, but you do not have to use all 3 parts. So the first one is purpose. Why do you do the work you do? What's the impact? And then we have the pragmatic of what do you spend your time doing? What's the logistics behind what you do? And finally, we have the process of what is your unique special sauce and approach. So I'm going to introduce myself, and I want you all to hear the different components. I'm going to do them out of order, and hopefully you can hear the different components. As a leadership communication coach, I help people speak with ease under pressure so that they can be more themselves. I do this work to dismantle systems that silence voices in our society so that more types of leaders are heard. And I combine tools from nervous system regulation, embodied storytelling, and systems thinking to create structure in spontaneous moments. Could everyone hear the 3 parts of that framework? And you could use any framework, and you can also just use one part of this framework. And so maybe on your phones, or if you have a notepad, can you all jot down a golden nugget for each of these 3? Just a word or a phrase. And I would love to have maybe a volunteer or 2 who want to try introducing themselves with this framework. Would anyone like to try? Yeah, let's get a box for you. What's your name, by the way? Yeah.
My name is Ibrahim Hudson.
What's your name?
Ibrahim Hudson.
Ibrahim, so nice to meet you, Ibrahim.
Nice to meet
you. So take a breath and take your time. And you don't have to use all 3 parts. You could use just one. And do you have any questions before you go?
No, no questions.
Okay, Ibrahim, take us away.
Hello, my name is Ibrahim Hudson. I am a student at the Marcy Lab School where we do software development. And what I spend my time doing, I mainly just play soccer and take photos. I'm a photographer, so with my unique approach, I like to connect my photography and creativity to my technical work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ibrahim. Before you cycle, can you pause more? Can you take a breath between? And does that feel good to practice that one more time and just take more time, micro pauses?
I do realize after I ended, I took a deep breath like,
Yeah. Let's go one more time. And even in between each of these ideas, take a micro pause. See how that changes your ability to speak and also our ability to listen.
Hello, my name is Ibrahim Hudson. I'm a student at the Marcy Lab School in Brooklyn, New York. I spend my time coding projects and playing soccer and doing photography as that's something that I enjoy. My unique approach to that is connecting that photography and the creativity that it takes to my technical work.
Yeah, Ibrahim, could you feel the difference?
Yes, I felt a lot calmer.
Right? And how did it feel for us receiving Ibrahim, right? It's a bit more measured. We can hear Ibrahim more. Amazing. Who else would like to try? Someone here? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Siobhan.
Hi, Siobhan. And would you be open to feedback as we practice?
Of course.
And what kind of feedback would you like around content or delivery or both?
More delivery.
Amazing. So take us away.
Hi, I'm Siobhan. I'm a director of education at a nonprofit organization. What I do in the meantime is come to events like this to meet young individuals or people who are transitioning in the industry. My unique approach is speaking to people and trying to map out where they want to be and where they end up, and think of educational resources that I'd be able to provide.
Yeah, Yvonne, well done, well done. Can we try it one more time?
Sure.
And can I ask you to think about speaking forward, think about taking up space, and especially with what you do, how important it is to model that, right? And thinking about taking up space and just seeing how that changes your ability to think on your feet.
Yes. So, again, here we go again. My name is Siobhan. I am a director of women's education at a nonprofit organization. I come to events like this to meet young individuals, people who are trying to transition into different areas of IT. And my unique approach is mapping all these ideas during these conversations and giving them resources that there are available.
Yeah, Siobhan, thank you, thank you. Could you feel yourself slow down and take up more space?
Yes.
It's important. Wonderful, wonderful. I want to hear from all of you, but I want to encourage you to use this framework throughout the rest of today. When you're meeting people and you want to introduce yourself, think about the framework. It can get us out of our heads and into the present moment. And I want to know what your takeaways are from today or any questions you have. Now, on the screen, I have a QR code because I wish I had more time with you. And the next level of this work is concise clarity. And here I have a free resource for you. It's a video about how to find concise clarity on your feet and how to adapt it for different audiences. And so I don't always want to leave with my golden nugget. When I'm networking, I might want to start in the details, start a bit warmer. And so this video is going to give you that framework so that you can decide how much detail to give and where to start when you're put on your feet. But I want to hear from you. What questions do you have? And what is one thing you might take away and move forward from today? And let's get those boxes going. We have someone here. Let's get a box for you. Hello.
Hello, Stefania is here. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Could you hold it closer so we can hear you? Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Awesome. So my question, you mentioned that you have a theater background. How are you able to connect that to the work that you do currently?
Yeah. So most theater people have significant stage fright. I don't know if people know that. And so being able to use a script on stage was really eye-opening for me as someone with social anxiety. I didn't have to think about what I did. But this work, I started to do this work in public hospitals, and realizing that this work of helping people use their real voices with their own words is like living theater, and I've never been back in a traditional stage setting since. And so the process that I do with my clients is honestly identical to my creative process as a theater person. And I believe that for all of us, we all have our own unique process that we're putting into practice. And we have to move that creative process into our communication so that we can feel more like ourselves, right? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The reason why I asked this question is because like I also have a theater background.
Yeah.
But I'm currently in the behavioral health sector trying to transition into cybersecurity.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot when like it's described that way, but I'm trying to figure out and at least share that there is definitely an overlap. So having you talk about it kind of like definitely gave me the courage to continue that work.
Theater people can do anything. It's the most translatable skill set.
Yes.
And every industry could use a little bit more of it. So
Right.
well done. What else? What will you move forward? What questions do you have? Yes, we have someone over here. Can we get a box for you? Thanks.
Thanks, man. Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Wow. So my name is Ethan Water, and so I get really anxious just even going up to someone. But once I actually meet them, I'm in this flow state. They like me, I like them, and it's great. But going up to them gives me these tremors, and that practice earlier, seeing all these people paired up, it just felt so odd to me. It felt so out of place. And like, how do you just say, screw it, just go up to them? It's hard because, you know, I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm gonna stop now and let you answer.
Oh, thank you, Ethan. You're articulating something that we all experience, and that's the anticipation anxiety. And so in the anticipation, you need something to focus on besides overthinking. For me, my perfectionism, I want to think about it. It feels productive, but it's not, right? And so in the lead up to today, I was focused on my objective. I wanted to give you all tools so that you could speak with more ease, so that we're hearing from more of you. I mean, it's about you. And it's about decentering myself, because anxiety makes us center ourselves and feel isolated in it. So whatever you can do to refocus on your impact, on the purpose you serve, that's my advice. And then to, you know, really give yourself a tool like this, which can help almost trick you into feeling more present, you know? But you're not alone, Ethan, and thank you for articulating that.
Thank you for the talk.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap up now, but I'm gonna be around all day learning from all of you, and I'm going to encourage you to bring me your questions. Email me any questions that you have. I put my email here because I wanna hear from all of you. Grab this QR code because this is a really, really helpful video that I think will provide even more context about concise clarity. I wanna thank you all for your commitment to responsible AI. I wanna thank you all for your commitment to learning. And then once again, thank you to the organizers and the wonderful team here. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
Everyone give it up to Lee. Thank you so much.